Hello everyone, this is the Promontory channel. Today we're going to take apart this engine. This is a Mercedes-Benz OM 447, an inline 6-cylinder naturally aspirated engine with a 128mm piston diameter. This engine has a power output of 241 horsepower. The cylinder volume is 12 liters. This engine was taken from a Mercedes-Benz 405 bus. It's commonly referred to as the Square. This is what it looks like. This bus belongs to our company, where I work. It's been with us for about 10 years. During this time I worked on this engine, but I don't remember when. We tried to find records, but they weren't saved. Anyway, I worked on it at some point, so what's the reason for removing it now? It started consuming oil. It began using a lot of oil. Lately, when they were trying to keep this bus running until repairs, they were adding several liters of oil every week. The first thing I did when they took it off was look into the air manifold, and I saw that there was a very thick layer of dust in there. So, you could say it's a traditional reason for this engine failure. Because of dust, a crack or a hole appeared somewhere in the air duct, maybe in the rubber air duct. Since the engine is in the back, there's dust and turbulence there, and the air intake is also in the back. And that's why, in my opinion, the air follows the path of least resistance, and as a result, unfiltered air goes into the intake manifold. Here's the dust layer in the intake manifold. Well, it turns out that if dust got into the cylinder, then the rings on the liners are worn out. There's a lot of wear, that's clear. We will check how the piston was damaged and so on. That is, we will disassemble it, inspect it for defects, and take a look.
I've already had videos with this problem where dust got in and people wrote to me asking why I didn't replace the pistons. They said I should have replaced the pistons right away and so on.
Well, I understand that new parts are new parts. That's obvious, of course. But you also have to understand that I'm the one making the decision. I only inspect and give a list of what absolutely needs to be replaced, without which the engine simply won't work, and what would be good to replace. Preferably because I understand that all of this costs money. And as we know, money is our main problem. Or rather, not money itself, but the lack of it. That's why I just provide a list, and I'm not the one making the decision anymore. The decision is made by the owner of this bus. Well, if the owner is okay with it, why shouldn't I be okay with it? So that's how I answered the question. Why not just replace the entire piston system right away? Well, if you think about it that way, then why not just install a new engine right away? Or maybe it's better to just buy a new bus altogether. That's why there are certain reasons, certain circumstances, and we work with what we have. We'll take it apart, inspect it, and find the problem. Well, from my experience, this isn't my first engine with this problem. Over the years, it's not even the 10th engine I've seen like this. So this is actually a pretty common reason for them to break down. Well, from experience, I can say that the liners and rings will definitely need to be replaced. We'll have to check the pistons. The bearings will need to be replaced, and the camshaft bushings and lifters will also need to be replaced. So, you could say it's a standard set for these engines. If it weren't for the dust, of course, it would have kept running and running. That's already been proven. There's something else I want to say. Recently, I had a video on my channel, a series about repairing the D2866 engine. And I want to say that these engines are very similar. This OM447 and the 2866. Even here on the block, if you look, you can see this is our number cast in, the Mercedes number, and this is the MAN number. So the block fits both engines. Well, and there are also a lot of interchangeable parts. Like the crankshaft, the housing, and so on. Of course, there are some differences, but the engines are very similar with many interchangeable parts. I also want to say that this engine, just as it is lying here right now in this position, that's exactly how it operates. As a result, it has unique features. For instance, the oil pan uses this casting, allowing it to close this way. There's also a reservoir for oil made underneath like this. There are also some unique features in the oil supply system. There are two oil pumps here. One pumps oil into the main reservoir, and the other pumps it from the main reservoir. It then supplies oil to the system. Well, I'll remove the oil pan and show you all of this. The engine was removed from the bus and washed with a Karcher. Well, as much as possible. That's all. Now I'm starting to disassemble this engine. First, I remove all the attachments, the manifolds, pipes, hoses, all of that. I unscrew all of it. What else do I want to say? That's it. I took a look, peeked into the exhaust manifold, and I see that the engine brake flap is still there. So that's really bad. It also affects the engine's performance. There's a system here called the engine brake. An air cylinder is connected to this shaft, and when you press it, when air is supplied to the cylinder, it closes this flap. So when the bus goes downhill, it slows down using the exhaust gases. There's a flap here, and in this manifold in the second one, there's the same kind of flap in this spot as well. From here I can see that there's a shaft there, but I don't know about the flap. So we're going to remove them, because all of this hasn't been working for a long time. And the fact that it's sitting a bit crooked like this, it creates additional resistance for the exhaust gases to exit. And accordingly, this affects the engine's performance. That's it. I just noticed another detail like this now. Alright, that's it. We're removing it now, starting with the clutch and handling everything step by step. So there will also be the assembly of this engine. On my channel, I'll be putting it together. I can't say anything about starting the painting yet. We'll see how it goes, depending on the circumstances. I'll try to film the installation on the bus too. I've been wanting to do all this for quite some time now. And every time something gets in the way, something doesn't work out. As they say, a good dancer is always hindered by something. Well, that's it. That's my introduction. Now let's get to the analysis. This is how it should be done. First, I'll remove the intake manifold, unscrew these bolts, and let's see what's inside. By the condition and dust in the cylinder heads. So we can see the layer of dust, how much dirt is in there. Everything here is covered in oil. The ventilation filter fits here, the gas recirculation pipe goes in, and oil leaks from the breather. This is our first cylinder head from the breather, and you might see it there, though I'm not sure if the camera catches it. There's even a puddle of oil sitting right in the cylinder head. So, obviously there's nothing good about that. Let's take it apart and keep looking. Here you can see what happens to an engine after it's pressure washed. Water got on the flywheel. The whole flywheel is rusty. Alright, we'll have to clean off the rust. Basically, the flywheel, I don't know, we'll see, alright. Alright, next I'll remove the fuel pump, but before I take it off, I'll set the timing marks. Now I'm unscrewing this plug, turning the engine and aligning the timing marks and checking the degrees. I've got this pump installed. Well, basically you can install it this way too. I always do it this way and check. It's just more convenient for me. We look through the inspection hole and see the movable and fixed marks aligned. We look at the flywheel and see 15, there are 17 degrees. That means the pump is set to 17 degrees just as it should be. That's it now. Now I can remove the pump. Next, I'm removing the valve covers and rocker arm shafts. Alright, so next I'll be removing the injectors. Now I'll get some wire and all. I'll poke around there, clean the crown from dirt, blow it out with compressed air, and then I'll remove the injectors. Alright, so people also ask how do you use the wrench? There are questions like that. I'll explain a bit now. So, we put the wrench on, and it must fit all the way down, right up to the stop. You can't allow any gap or any dirt to remain there. It has to fit all the way down to the stop. Then we screw it on. We're putting it onto the injector itself, right here where the tube is attached, this central bolt. And with this nut we tighten the wrench to the crown. Tighten it fully, then loosen slightly. Well, literally a quarter turn. Next I have this kind of wrench cut down to 24. I put it on and break it loose with a pipe. I've broken everything loose. Now I make a couple of turns, and I unscrew the crown itself. the nut that holds the injector. Well, I've made 3 turns now. And now I need to use this nut. I'm going to tighten it now, and this way I'll pull the injector out of its socket. So as you can see, I broke it loose. It's because it gets stuck there with carbon deposits. It's all stuck in there. Basically, it's really tight in there. That's it. Now I've broken it loose. Now I can hold this nut and just turn the wrench itself. So this wrench goes straight into the puller. It pulls the injector out. Basically, this is a special puller for injectors. I've removed all the injectors. Next, I need to remove the manifolds, but right now it's sitting directly on the manifold, so I hang it on the hoist and remove the manifold while it's suspended. I removed the manifolds and the starter immediately, since the engine is installed without the manifolds and rests on the starter. That's it. Now I'm moving everything out of the way, rolling the engine back and taking off the heads. Alright, that's it. I set the engine down a bit like this. Let it lean this way for now. Now I need to drain all the oil from the filter, take off the cover, and then unscrew the heads. I removed the filter and will leave the bucket to let the oil drip. Next, I'll remove the heads. Now I'll slightly lift the engine, place wood underneath, and remove the heads. Let's check the condition of the pistons. Boom. Okay. Well, so I removed the cylinder heads and we're looking at the condition of the heads and the sleeves. What can we see right now? About the heads, I took them to a surface grinder last time. So we can see that everything here is still basically acceptable, but it needs to be cleaned and checked. There's significant carbon buildup since the oil was burning in the cylinders. And I had these kinds of metal gaskets with rubber seals, so we can see that the cylinder heads weren't damaged. The only thing is, the coolant was basically just water, I think. You can see that the rust has eaten through everything. Well, I have to clean this up.
I'll clean the inside as much as I can.
So now let's look at the cylinders. This is how the wear feels. We need to clean all of this and take a look. At first glance, there's noticeable wear. You can feel a ridge with your finger. However, I expected it to be worse. So our rings suffered more than the sleeves. Apparently that's how it is, yeah. Well, so that's the picture we see. Next, I'll take out these guide bushings and remove the gaskets. So I removed the upper row of guides, but the lower row won't come out. It's stuck because of rust or carbon buildup, I'm not sure. So I'll have to crush them later and take them out that way, so I can clean this surface. Next, I'll remove the pump and the pulley. Here's what my engine looks like now. I've already taken off many parts and you can see the dirt left under the pulley. That means the spray doesn't reach here at all, so you can judge and see what the engine was like. So now, I need to remove the oil pan. I can't take it off like this because the engine is resting its full weight on the pan right now. I'm gonna lift it with a hoist, suspend it, and then remove the oil pan while it's hanging. Alright, we've opened up the oil pan. Let's see what we've got. Basically, we don't see anything unusual. There's some oil, a little dirt, and water got in during washing. We see red sealant. The oil pan was installed with red sealant. I'm waiting for the red sealant fans in the comments. Here's something else I want to say. We can see that there are two oil pumps. The first one, the second one. This pump draws oil from this spot. Since the engine runs horizontally, oil flows down and collects in a special reservoir in the block. So this pump pumps out and discharges the oil directly into this container. Here is the oil discharge. It just transfers it from there and dumps it here. And the second pump has its intake at the bottom, and it takes the oil from here and sends it through the system. There's a pressure relief valve installed. That's a feature of this engine because it runs horizontally. So if this pump wasn't here, the oil would just accumulate here by gravity. It would overflow, and by the time it drained over here, the level would constantly drop. That's it, I'm taking off the oil pan. Now we're taking off the oil pump right away because you can't install the engine with it on. That's it, then we'll take out the pistons. Alright, next I'm removing the flywheel housing and the front covers. Flywheel. I've taken off all the covers, including the rear housing and front cover. I've set the timing marks and we're checking to ensure they match and nothing is misaligned. Now I'm going to take out the pistons. I need to clean off this carbon buildup because the top ring doesn't pass through it well. It gets stuck and I have to tap it. So I don't have to tap it. Now I'll take a knife, clean off the carbon buildup and then take out the pistons. Alright, I removed the carbon buildup and cleaned it. This is how it looks now. Okay, I'm taking out the pistons. I've removed the third and fourth pistons. Let's take a look. As you can see, things look pretty bad. Okay, I won't make any conclusions yet. I'll take everything apart completely and measure it, then I'll talk about it. Alright, and right away, let's take a look at the compression rings and oil control rings. And by looking at the cross-section of the ring, you can immediately tell how much it's worn down. Here's the top one. Now I'll take them out and measure them against the cylinder liner to clearly show how much the dust has worn down the rings. So I've installed the oil control ring and we can see a gap of about 2 millimeters, maybe even a bit more, around 2 millimeters. So with a standard of 0.3 millimeters, we have a gap of 2 millimeters. Next, I installed the second compression ring. We can see a gap of about 3 millimeters, maybe even more, possibly 3.5 millimeters. Using a 0.3 standard, the gap increases tenfold. So I installed the top compression ring and we can also see that the gap is about 3 millimeters, so the gap is also 10 times bigger. Well, basically I have seen even bigger gaps, of course, but this is already a very large ring gap too. That's why the compression gases break through into the crankcase. The engine breathes heavily, and oil from the breather gets thrown into the air intake manifold. Plus oil also gets into the combustion chamber from the cylinder through the ring. Alright, moving on. I'll show the sleeve's condition now. We can see that in this spot there are longitudinal scuffs, longitudinal scratches at the bottom and top, basically along the skirt, but in this sleeve there are fewer of them. And there's wear too. You can feel it with your nail. Well, maybe I'll take an inside micrometer and measure it so we can clearly see in numbers how much wear there is. I'm taking out the rest now, the pistons. Also, if we look at the piston, you can see these kinds of cracks in the combustion chamber. So this is a characteristic feature of these engines. On other engines, this is uncommon. Here's one from a different combustion chamber, but with these engines, it happens frequently. So we can see that at the top of the piston bottom, there is a sort of edge, a few millimeters thick, and cracks run along it. This is a fairly common occurrence. And basically, sometimes people ask me if it's possible to keep using the piston or not. From my experience, I can say that you can. These cracks are very common, and from my experience they keep working, they keep running, they function. Obviously it doesn't look very good, but that's how it is. I'm just telling it like it is. Here we can see from this side what kind of crack it is and where it goes deeper. So I've taken out the pistons. Now I'm going to remove the crankshaft. I'm unscrewing the main bearings and taking out the crankshaft. I wiped off the oil and visually checked it by touch, and the crankshaft is in excellent condition. These crankshafts last forever. You could say that if it runs on good oil, and especially if there's no dust, it can work forever. That's the quality from the 90s. Well, of course, I'll measure it with a micrometer later when I take the whole engine apart, but I don't think there will be any issues with it. Alright, next let's look at the bearings. We can see there are some small scratches on them, and there are spots that look a bit burnt, but that's because there was dust in the oil anyway. It was circulating through the system, so the bearings need to be replaced in any case, both the main and the connecting rod bearings. Alright, next I'll take out the camshaft. Now I'm unscrewing these 4 bolts, removing the compressor drive gear, taking out the camshaft, and checking the condition of the camshaft, the bushings, the camshafts, and the lifters. Now let's look at the camshaft and visually assess its condition. The main journals and supports are in perfect condition, and as far as I can see, the lobes are also all in perfect, or let's say, good condition. This one here will be the lowest. Yes, now I'll take the caliper and measure it. I think this one will be the lowest. Alright, now I'm going to measure the camshaft. First, let's check the micrometer. We see that 0 matches the standard. First, we'll check the bearing journals. The size of these journals should be 69.94. That's the standard. So we see 69.92. 69.92. 69.92. Well, I've already measured all of them. They're all around 69.9293 within those limits. So now we'll measure the camshaft lobes with the same micrometer. We've measured the camshaft journals. They're all perfect, all in good condition. Now we'll measure the lobes. Visually, we pick the best lobe by its condition, and we'll use it as a reference because all camshafts can be different depending on this diameter. This height can vary, so we'll use the one lobe that's in the best condition as our reference. So we measure it and see that its height is 56.35. That's it, we'll use this height as our reference. We measure the neighboring cam, 56.35. Next one, 56.35. Now let's measure the cam that we visually identified as the lowest one. Let's check its height. Its height is 55.4. So if this normal cam is 56.3 and here we have 55.4, that's 0.9 meter. Of course there's nothing good about this, but from my experience, this camshaft will still work for more than a year. No one is going to replace this camshaft. A new one costs, I don't know, about 40,000 rubles. No one is going to spend 40,000 rubles on a new camshaft. So, as I said before, we work with what we have. And now if viewers of the previous MAN D2866 engine video saw my cam lobes were worn down by 4 or 5 millimeters, that's already critical. You can't install a camshaft like that, but 0.9 millimeters is still acceptable. I'm saying this from my own many years of experience. We've inspected and measured the entire camshaft for defects and will leave it as is. It will still last for some time, though it's not in perfect condition. Well, let's say it's about a C+, it'll do. So, what else do we need to check on the camshaft? We need to check these weights here. Make sure they're sitting tight and not loose. This is our mechanical ignition advance. They're pushed out by centrifugal force, and this gear shifts in relation to this other gear, which gives us ignition advance. Look, these weights are sitting tight, not even loose. Sometimes they get worn out and they stop turning there. They get stuck in one spot and start grinding against these cheeks here. Everything here is fine. Next, we need to check the condition of the fuel pump drive. That is, these teeth can also sometimes get chipped. Now we'll take a look at this gear. So we can see that the gear is also in good condition, so there are no more questions about the camshaft. So, since we've started working with micrometers, let's go ahead and measure their crankshaft. I took a micrometer starting from 100 and also checked it with a standard. And now we're checking the main journals. The first main journal is 103.98. The second main journal is 103.98. The third main journal is 103.99. Remember, the standard is 104 and the lower limit is 103.98.
103.98. The sixth is 103.99. Actually, that was the fifth one, and now this is the sixth. The sixth is 103.98. The seventh is 103.98.
Alright, now let's take the next one. The micrometer from 75, we also checked it with the standard, setting it to 90 millitorque. The standard for us is 90.00 and it's allowed down to 89.98. Let's see, the first connecting rod is 89.99. The second connecting rod measures 89.98.
The third connecting rod is 89.99. The fourth connecting rod is 89.99. The fifth connecting rod is 89.90. Well, let it be 8. The sixth connecting rod is 89.99. Okay.
As I said, there are no issues with the crankshaft. It's in perfect condition, which was clear just by looking at it. I really didn't need to measure it. Of course, we're keeping the crankshaft. The new bearings are within spec, and the inspected crankshaft has no issues. Naturally, I'll blow out all the channels again before assembly. And let me remind you, these crankshafts don't have any plugs for cleaning. There's just a through-hole drilling and another through-hole drilling into this channel. That's it. No sediment traps, no plugs, nothing. I'm putting the crankshaft aside. Now I need to take out the tappets and remove the sleeves. The tappets are clearly chipped. So, as we can see, these two need to be replaced. These two need to be replaced. So all the tappets need to be replaced. Well, these are regular tappets, not reinforced ones. And with regular tappets, this is always the case. The camshaft bushings and tappets will also need replacement. Alright, next I'll be taking out the sleeves. Since I don't plan to use these sleeves anymore, I'll just knock them out. If I needed them, if I plan to use them again in the future, I would remove them carefully with a puller. The engine is nearly fully disassembled. Here's how it looks now. I removed the rubber seals under the cylinder liner. The liner seats are in excellent condition. You probably can't see the dirt right now. Well, later, when I clean the block, I'll show you more. Now I'll show you what I'm going to do. Now I'll set the engine upright and remove the heat exchanger. I need to flush the radiator from old oil and dirt. Basically, I need to take it off and clean it. And basically, that's all. Alright, I removed the heat exchanger, so now my engine is fully disassembled. Next I'll wash, clean, blow out, and tidy the block. There's a long job ahead. All parts need to be washed, cleaned, scrubbed, and blown out. So, let's sum it up. What are we going to do with this engine? First, the push rods will be replaced. You can see they're all chipped. The push rods will be replaced. Identify key points. Remove repetition and redundancies. Preserve speaker's perspective. Ensure all proper names remain. Check for minimum 25% shortening. As for the bearings, we'll be replacing them with new ones, both main and connecting rod bearings. I just went to check on the pistons. I was thinking maybe we might get new pistons. No, there won't be any new pistons. I'll replace some pistons, but not with new ones. But I have a disassembled engine, exactly the same one. And I have pistons from it. I'll choose the ones that are in better condition. So, out of 12 pistons, I need to pick 6. Alright, I want to measure the piston and show its size. We'll use a micrometer starting at 125 meters. I also checked it against the standard. And now we're measuring the piston skirt. The size is correctly 107.82 mAh. Now let's examine the piston crown. This piston is Group B, with a nominal size of 127.85, but our measurement was 127.83. The piston wear is just 0.03 millimeters. Given its age, heavy use, recent work and dust, and only 0.03 millimeters of wear. That's why I rarely change pistons on these engines. That's why the old pistons are always left, because you could say their skirts hardly wear out at all. I'll be replacing this one because it has a scratch, so I'll be choosing from the other pistons. I want to measure wear in the cylinder liner. You can feel it catch with your finger. I'm taking an inside micrometer and setting it to 128 millimeters because our cylinder liner is Group B. Its size is 127.99, well, roughly speaking, 128 millimeters. So I take this attachment and the device itself. Now I take the micrometer and set it exactly to 128 millimeters. So here we see 0 plus 3, and again 0, that's 128 millimeters. I screw on the 120-130 millimeter attachment and insert it like this into the 128 millimeter setting. In this position, the micrometer shows 0, which means I have exactly 128 millimeters. First, I measure where the piston rings stay stationary. Here we have plus 0.03 millimeters, well, plus 0.02. About there, we turn it 90 degrees and see it's at 0 here. So there's no wear at the top. Next, we lower it somewhere to the middle of the sleeve and check. It also goes down to 0. So in this spot there's also no wear. The size is 128 millimeters. We turn it 90 degrees. Let's check. It also goes down to 0. In the middle of the sleeve there's no wear. Now let's move it to the spot where we have the most wear, which is at the top dead center. And we can see right away that the wear here is more than 0.20 millimeters. Well, 0.20 millimeters. So the wear in this spot is 0.20 millimeters, or 2/10. We turn it 90 degrees. Well, we've turned it 90 degrees. Here, the wear is already a bit less, about 0.15 millimeters. So it turns out that somewhere around here we have the most wear. We see 0.2, 0.21, and 0.22 millimeters, so it's about here. You can even see this step visually. You can feel it well by touch. With your finger, your nail catches on it. And we've just found out that the amount of wear at this spot is 0.22 millimeters in diameter. That's it. There you go. This way, we've determined the size of the cylinder liner wear. So accordingly, the liners will need to be replaced. So, what else are we going to do next? Naturally, the cylinder heads will be disassembled. I might send them for surface grinding. All the gaskets, seals, and oil seals will be replaced, of course. The valve stem seals, possibly the valve guides, bushings, and some valves will be replaced. In other words, the cylinder heads. I'll still be taking everything apart and checking it. The water pump might need repair since it has some play. Next, I'll overhaul the compressor since dust got in and the cylinder's worn out. I'll replace the cylinder, piston, rings, and more. Well, that's just some minor work along the way. We'll put the high-pressure fuel pump on the test bench, check how many cubic centimeters it delivers, and see if there's any variation between the sections. We'll also test the injectors on the bench. We may need to replace the nozzle, but that's just routine work. I'll also be taking apart and inspecting the clutch basket. Maybe I'll install a repair kit, or maybe it'll just need cleaning. Well, we'll figure it out as we go. We'll check everything. So, what about the engine? We've taken it apart and done the main inspection of the key parts. We'll do it as we go. Of course, we'll still need to wash, clean, and check everything again. Well, basically, that's the amount of work we have ahead of us. I'll make a single episode covering the full disassembly, no matter the length. So, it'll be just one episode. I won't stretch it out. The next episode will be about assembling this engine, and there might be some cleaning involved. One, maybe two, let's see. So what else do I want to say? According to the statistics, here's what the viewership looks like on my channel. So, as we can see, less than 30% of people watching me are subscribed. That means over 70% are watching without subscribing. It's not great for the channel that so many people watch without subscribing. That's why I'm asking those who watch my channel and like my videos to please subscribe. It will benefit the channel and it's very important for its growth. And personally, for me, when there's motivation, when the channel is growing and getting views, I feel inspired to make more videos. It really makes me want to keep going. I ask those who aren't subscribed to my channel but watch my videos to please subscribe. And in general, any activity on the channel is welcome. Like the video, leave any comment. Even if it's off topic or doesn't make sense, just write a comment. All of this is very important for the growth of the channel. It's very important to me and it's all appreciated. That's my small request. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. That's all. Well, I'll wrap up this video here. That's how the video turned out. Thank you all for watching. Good luck to everyone. Goodbye everyone.